If you ever find yourself wandering through the Scottish Highlands or along the rugged North Sea coast, you'll discover football grounds that feel like living pieces of local history. These aren't massive stadiums with luxury boxes. They're windswept, hand-built cathedrals of community. Let's dive right in. 20. Claggan Park, Fort William FC. Let's start in the shadow of Ben Nevis. Claggan Park sits just outside the town of Fort William, a ground so scenic it almost feels surreal. Built in the 1970s, this pitch is surrounded by mountains and mist, giving it one of the most cinematic backdrops in British football. With a capacity of around 1,800, Claggan Park represents isolation. 19. Glebe Park, Brehon City. A few hours east, Glebe Park stands proudly in the Angus town of Brehon. Opened in 1919, it's a ground with real history, and perhaps the most famous hedge in football. A 100-yard beech hedge runs along one side of the pitch, giving it a look straight out of a painting. Brehon City have played here for more than a century. 18. Netherdale, Gala has Ferrydean Rovers. Down in the borders, Netherdale stands out for its unusual Brutalist concrete stand, built in the early 1960s. It looks more like an art museum than a football ground, and that's exactly why The Guardian once featured it among the UK's most striking sporting venues. Gala Ferrydean Rovers play here in front of about 1,000 seats, but it feels like a local cathedral of football. 17. Kynoch Park, Keith FC. Kynoch Park, home of Keith FC since 1922, is the heart of football in Moray. It's small, rugged, and full of character, a main stand that looks frozen in time, with red benches and iron railings. Capacity is roughly 2,300, but you'll rarely see it empty. It's not fancy, but it's authentic. Keith has played Highland League football here for decades. 16. Victoria Park, Buckie Thistle. Victoria Park in Buckie feels like the perfect coastal ground. Built in 1909, it's home to Buckie Thistle, one of the Highland League's most successful sides. Capacity sits at around 5,000, with a neat main stand and open terraces behind the goals. You can smell the sea air from the stands, and the local crowd gives it a warmth that big stadiums often miss. 15. Dudgeon Park, Brora Rangers. Up in Sutherland lies Dudgeon Park, home to Brora Rangers. The ground opened in 1932 and holds around 2,000 fans. It's neat, well-kept, and surrounded by views of rolling hills. Brora has been one of the Highland League's top sides in recent years, nearly reaching the Scottish Professional Football League. Despite its small size, Dudgeon Park carries ambition, with floodlights and proper facilities. 14. Grant Street Park, Clacknacuddin, Inverness. In Inverness, tucked between homes and old streets, sits Grant Street Park, home of Clacknacuddin FC, one of the Highland League's oldest clubs. The ground dates back to the early 1900s and can fit roughly 2,000 fans. It has that worn-in charm you can't fake: old stone walls, corrugated roofs, and terraces that have seen generations of fans come and go. 13. Christie Park, Hintley. Christie Park in Hintley is one of the Highland League's classic venues. Opened in 1921, with a capacity of around 2,500, it's a tidy, symmetrical ground with covered stands on both sides. Hintley FC was a powerhouse in the 1990s, winning 5 straight league titles, and this little ground saw crowds that rivaled towns twice its size. Today, it's quieter but still beautifully maintained. 12. North Lodge Park, Formartine United. North Lodge Park sits in Pitmedden, Aberdeenshire, and has been home to Formartine United since 1937. With a capacity of around 1,800, it's small but tidy, great sightlines, low barriers, and a warm local crowd. Formartine was a junior side for decades before joining the Highland League in 2009, and the rise brought new life to this quiet ground. 11. Windswept Park, Forres Mechanics. This is one of the Highland League's oldest and most picturesque grounds. Built in 1884, it holds around 2,700 and sits right beside the Rivermost set. The club, nicknamed the Cans, has been here for well over a century, and it feels every bit the classic Scottish football venue. Iron gates, red brick turnstiles, and a pitch surrounded by tall trees. 10. Belslea Park, Fraserburgh. Aberdeenshire, at Belslea Park, this is home of Fraserburgh FC, nicknamed the Brock. Opened in 1910, This seaside ground feels like it's been carved into the landscape itself. The North Sea air sweeps across the terraces, giving every match that old-fashioned edge. Belslea holds around 3,000 fans, though only a few hundred usually gather, locals wrapped in scarves and fishermen's jackets. 9. The Hawes, Tawif United. Just west of Fraserburgh sits the Hawes, the home of Tawif United, built in 1950 beside the River Devon. This is one of those grounds that feels rooted in the land. Literally, with grassy banks rising around the pitch and the river flowing quietly nearby. Capacity is about 2,500, mostly standing room. It's classic Highland League scenery, calm, green, and deeply local. 8. Station Park, Nairn County. Head north and you'll find Station Park in Nairn, home to Nairn County FC. Built in 1914, it's one of those old-fashioned grounds where you can step off the train and be inside the turnstiles in minutes. Station Park can hold around 2,500 fans, with a main stand that creaks with history. The rest are open terraces, painted in bright yellow and black. 7. Harmsworth Park, Wick Academy. Now we go to the edge of Scotland. Harmsworth Park, in Wick, the most northerly senior football ground in the UK. Built in 1920, it's closer to the Arctic Circle than it is to Edinburgh. The home team, Wick Academy, draws fans from miles around. Capacity is about 2,412, and when full, it feels like the whole town has turned out. 6. Grant Park, Lossiemouth. Further along the Moray coast lies Grant Park, home of Lossiemouth FC. Opened in 1948, it's perched just a short walk from the sea. You can actually smell the salt water from the terraces. This ground can fit roughly 2,000 fans, though it's rarely packed. The pitch lies within a public park framed by pine trees and dunes, giving it a relaxed, community feel. 5. Boroughbriggs, Elgin City. Step up one level and you reach Boroughbriggs, the home of Elgin City and the most northerly professional ground in the Scottish leagues. Built in 1921, this compact stadium holds around 4,500, with 478 seats in the main stand. Elgin joined the Scottish Football League in 2000, giving Boroughbriggs a touch of modern polish. 4. Gayfield Park, Arbroath. Few grounds are as dramatic as Gayfield Park, home to Arbroath FC. Built in 1887, it's one of the oldest, and definitely the closest to the sea, football grounds in the entire UK. At high tide, you can literally hear the waves crashing against the wall behind the goal. Capacity is 6,600, though the stands are tight and compact. 3. Princess Royal Park, Deveron Vale, Banff. In Banff, along the Moray Firth, sits Princess Royal Park, home of Deveron Vale FC. Opened in 1938, it's a small, well-kept ground with a view over the river and town. Capacity is around 2,500, and the ground has a tidy main stand with red seats, a small social club, and friendly volunteers who know everyone by name. 2. Spain Park, Banks OD, Aberdeen. Tucked beside the River Dee in Aberdeen, Spain Park is a hidden gem with a modern edge. Home to Banks ODFC, it was first opened in 1957, but the ground has been steadily upgraded. Capacity is about 1,600, and while it's compact, it's got heart. The club is known for strong youth development, producing players who move up the Scottish pyramid. 1. Ainsley Park, the Spartans, Edinburgh. And finally, we finish in the capital. Ainsley Park, home of the Spartans, opened in 2008 in the north of Edinburgh. It's modern, clean, and very Scottish, practical and full of heart. It holds 3,000 fans with around 500 seats in the main stand and the artificial pitch. Fans stand close to the touchline. The floodlights glow against the Edinburgh sky. And there you have it. These 20 grounds represent the heartbeat of Scottish football's lowest tiers, from mountain backdrops to hedged touchlines, from seaside winds to stone terraces. They're living museums of football culture, each telling stories that stretch back a century or more. Thanks for watching. If you love the content, please ensure that you subscribe, like, share, and comment. See you in the next one.